The rain tapped softly against the classroom window, a steady rhythm that filled the silence of the empty room. Clara Hensley sat alone at her desk, her dark hair falling over her eyes, shielding her from the world. At 16, she was the daughter of a millionaire CEO, a name whispered in the halls of Westbridge High with a mix of awe and envy. But Clara didn't speak. Not to her teachers, not to her classmates, not even when called on in class. Her silence was a wall, tall and unyielding, built from something no one could quite name. Outside, the small town of Willow Creek buzzed quietly under grey skies. The school, with its peeling paint and creaky floors, stood at the heart of it, a place where dreams often felt too big for the worn-out desks. Clara's father, Richard Hensley, ran Hensley Enterprises, a tech empire that cast a long shadow over the town. His wealth funded the new library wing, the football field lights, even the laptops in the computer lab. But Clara, she was a mystery, her voice locked away, her presence a ghost in the crowded halls. Miss Emily Carter, a first-year English teacher, noticed Clara's silence on her first day. Emily was 25, with tired eyes and a heart full of hope, though her bank account barely stretched to cover rent. She'd come to Willow Creek, chasing a dream of making a difference. But the reality of teaching, grading papers until midnight, managing rowdy teens, dodging whispers about her second-hand clothes, was heavier than she'd imagined. Clara, though, was different. Her silence wasn't defiance or shyness, it was something deeper, like a wound that hadn't healed. Emily watched Clara during lessons, her pen moving furiously in her notebook, sketching intricate designs instead of taking notes. The other students left her alone, sensing the invisible barrier she carried. Emily tried gentle questions, soft smiles, even notes slipped onto her desk. "What's on your mind, Clara?" One read. Clara would glance at them, her hazel eyes flickering, then look away. Nothing. Emily's heart sank each time, but she couldn't give up. Something about Clara's quiet presence tugged at her, a puzzle she needed to solve. Weeks passed, and the rain kept falling. Emily's classroom became a refuge for her, a place where she could pour her energy into stories and poems, hoping to spark something in her students. She assigned a project, write a personal essay about a moment that changed you. Most kids groaned, but Emily saw Clara's pen pause mid-sketch. For a moment, her eyes lifted, meeting Emily's. A spark, faint but real. Emily held her breath, hoping Clara might finally speak. But the moment passed, and Clara's gaze dropped back to her notebook. Emily stayed late that evening, grading papers under the hum of fluorescent lights. The school felt hollow after hours, the only sounds the drip of a leaky faucet and the distant hum of a janitor's vacuum. She found Clara's essay in the pile, a single page with neat, careful handwriting. The title read, "The Day the Music Stopped." Emily's heart quickened as she read. Clara wrote about her mother, Lillian, who died 3 years ago. She described a summer evening, fireflies dancing in their backyard, her mother playing the piano, her laughter filling the air. Clara had been 13, sitting cross-legged on the grass, feeling like the world was perfect. Then, a car accident. Sudden, final. Clara wrote, "When she left, my voice went with her. I don't know how to find it again." The essay ended there, raw and unfinished, like Clara herself. Emily's throat tightened. She'd lost her own father young, and the ache of it still lingered. She saw herself in Clara's words, the weight of grief that could steal your voice. The next day, Emily approached Clara after class, her steps careful, like approaching a deer in the woods. "Clara," she said softly, Your essay, it's beautiful. Would you want to talk about it? Just us. Clara's fingers tightened around her pencil, but she didn't look up. Emily waited, the silence stretching, then nodded. Okay. Whenever you're ready. The days grew shorter, the air colder. Emily kept trying. She left books of poetry on Clara's desk. Mary Oliver, Emily Dickinson, hoping the words might reach where hers couldn't. She played soft music during writing time, noticing how Clara's shoulders relaxed when a piano melody filled the room. Emily began to share her own stories in class, small ones about her childhood, her father's old guitar, the way music had carried her through hard days. She didn't push Clara, but she hoped the girl was listening. Tension built in the school as winter approached. The principal, Mr. Dawson, was under pressure from the school board and from Richard Hensley himself. Clara's silence was becoming a problem, a mark against the school's reputation. She's a distraction, Mr. Dawson said in a staff meeting, his voice clipped. If she won't participate, we need to consider other options. Emily's stomach churned. She knew other options meant pushing Clara out, maybe to a private tutor or a different school. She couldn't let that happen. One afternoon, Emily found Clara lingering by the music room, her fingers brushing the doorframe. The piano inside stood silent, dust gathering on its keys. Emily had an idea, a small, fragile hope. She spoke to the music teacher, Mrs. Larson, who agreed to let Emily use the room after school. The next day, Emily left a note on Clara's desk. Meet me in the music room at 3:30. No pressure, just music. She didn't expect Clara to come, but Clara did. She slipped into the room, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her eyes wary. Emily sat at the piano, her fingers clumsy on the keys. She wasn't a musician, not really, but she'd learned a few chords as a kid. She played a simple melody, something her father used to hum. Clara stood by the door, motionless, but she didn't leave. Emily kept playing, letting the notes fill the quiet. When she stopped, Clara's eyes were wet, but she didn't speak. This became their routine. Every Tuesday, Emily would play, and Clara would listen. Sometimes Emily talked about her father, about how music felt like a bridge to him. Clara never responded, but she started sitting closer, her sketchbook open, her pencil tracing soft lines. Emily noticed the drawings changing fireflies, a woman's hands on a piano, a girl with dark hair looking at the stars. Each sketch felt like a word Clara couldn't say. One Tuesday, the rain stopped, and sunlight spilled through the music room windows, casting golden patches on the floor. Emily played a new piece, one she'd practiced for weeks, a gentle lullaby her father had loved. She fumbled a note, laughed softly, and said, "Sorry, I'm no expert." Then, a sound so faint Emily almost missed it. A whisper, "It's okay." Clara's voice, small and rough, like a door creaking open after years of being shut. Emily's heart stopped. She turned slowly, afraid to break the moment. Clara's eyes were on the piano, her fingers twisting together. "That was nice," Clara said, her voice barely audible. Emily smiled, tears pricking her eyes. "Want to try?" she asked, sliding over on the bench. Clara hesitated, then sat beside her. Her fingers hovered over the keys, trembling, then pressed down. A single note, clear and bright, rang out. Then another. She played a halting version of the lullaby, her hands unsure, but steadying with each note. The twist came quietly, not with a grand gesture, but with a shift in the air. Clara began to speak in those Tuesday afternoons, first in whispers, then in full sentences. She talked about her mother, how the piano had been her voice, how losing her felt like losing music itself. Emily listened, her own grief softening as she shared stories of her father. The music room became their sanctuary, a place where silence gave way to sound, where wounds began to heal. By spring, Clara was different. She spoke in class, not often, but enough. Her essays grew longer, filled with memories of fireflies and laughter. The other students noticed, their whispers turning from envy to curiosity. Emily saw Clara smile once, a small, real smile, as she passed her in the hall. Richard Hensley visited the school one day, his suit crisp, his face unreadable. He thanked Emily in a curt nod, but his eyes lingered on Clara, who was laughing with a classmate. Emily knew he saw it too. The change, the light returning. The school year ended with a recital, a small event in the music room. Clara asked to play. Emily stood in the back, her heart full, as Clara's fingers moved over the keys, playing the lullaby they'd practiced. The notes were steady, strong, a bridge to the mother she'd lost and the voice she'd found. The room was quiet when she finished, then erupted in soft applause. Clara looked at Emily, her eyes shining, and mouthed, "Thank you." As summer bloomed in Willow Creek, Emily sat in her classroom, packing up for the break. The rain had stopped months ago, and sunlight warmed the desks. She thought about Clara, about the music that had brought them together, about how grief could steal your voice, but love could help you find it. She didn't have much, not money, not status, but she had this moment, this small victory. It was enough. For anyone listening, anyone carrying their own silence, Emily's story whispers a truth sometimes. All it takes is one person to hear you, to sit with you in the quiet, to play a note that brings you back. If you're holding on to something heavy, find your music. Play it, even if it's just one note at a time.